Hello, everyone, and welcome to Osquery Office Hours. It is February, just about Valentine's Day, and at least here in Boston, we're starting to see some thaw on the snow. Although I gather maybe less in Italy since you have the Winter Olympics, so hopefully less thawing there. But yeah, welcome to Osquery. Announcements and highlights since the last meeting. I guess I have a small announcement. I went and merged spec file generation into the Osquery Go SDK. So if you write tables using Go, you could consider generating specs for them.
Yeah, I saw that. That's fun. I didn't get a chance to look at it carefully yet. It's backwards compatible, yeah? Okay,
Yeah, I added
great.
Verdict arguments into some of the things, and
Okay, cool.
is it perfect? But our API surface was kind of nasty, so I
Sure.
could only do so much.
Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. Yeah, no, I think that's really cool. I'll have to let the folks at Fleet know about that and see if we will want to start doing that.
Yeah, as perhaps implied, is that we're playing with that. So,
Cool.
anyhow, yeah,
Alright.
I imagine if you do end up looking at it, so I merged it and we're basing code and launcher off of it. If you think it should change, like, holler soon. It's not that hard to change launcher. So, yeah. So if you get to playing with it, I don't think the API has to be super stable. There's only like 2 major users of it. So
Yeah. Awesome. Cool.
Other announcements? Okay. Moving on. The next section of our meeting is an open section for questions, issues, PRs, anything that people want to raise that they did not add to the agenda. Okay, moving on to some agenda items. Zach, how's the toolchain?
Hello, yes, thank you for approving the PR for building the toolchain in CI in the Osquery toolchain repo. So that I merged as of yesterday. I tagged the 1.2.0 release, which I think I had stated my original intention was that the 1.2.0 would be this, or would actually be like a 1.1.1. Which was the intention was don't change any of the dependencies, just build them on CI. Now, then when I went to tag the release, I noticed that actually a couple of the dependencies had been changed on master, but not yet released. So that's why I called it a 1.2.0. Notably, there's a PR from Stefano that upgraded to LLVM 11. And there was a PR from, can't remember, someone else that made some other dependency update. I'm not remembering off the top of my head.
Alton, I think.
Yes.
Our colleagues, yeah.
So it built successfully. It uploaded to the release. I have kicked off an attempt to build with that 1.2.0 toolchain in the Osquery, the main repo CI. That's currently running. The Linux build on ARM seems to have run successfully. I guess the configuration I'm using is skipping the tests on ARM. Maybe it shouldn't, but that's probably a separate question that maybe goes more to the other PR that I wanted to bring up, which is this 8748, the build Linux binaries on CI without container, which actually is also the one that merges the ARM builds into the same job as well. And Steph, you had some feedback around that. I had a question. I don't understand your feedback, although I agree that things look a little messy there.
Yeah.
So
I kind of remember what I was thinking, but I can't really get there from the comment I left you. And I saw your question earlier today, and I haven't put it all back in my head yet.
Okay.
I think the basic thing I was trying to ask. So our GitHub Actions workflows are really, really hard to read. And
Agree.
if I look at this one, you have a lot of, for example, store the unsigned debug RPM if the build is rel with deb and the OS is Ubuntu 2204.
Yeah.
And what I discern from that is that you're using the same job to both test across many platforms and also sort of save the artifacts, right? You don't want to save the artifacts if it's not the Ubuntu 2204 job.
Yes. Well, it's the okay, so mostly it's that we build, release, debug, and release with debug info.
Yeah.
And the only one that we want to store as an artifact is the rel with dev info.
Right.
Now, the reason the other part of the if is there is because when I merged in the ARM with the x86, we upload to like different paths, I think. And there wasn't like a great way that I could see to get the path uploads correct without doing sort of like a if ARM like do this one, if x86 do this one. So hence the double if. The old if was there before, the if on the build type.
The if on the build type makes sense. I think the if on the Matrix OS feels like we should be solving this a different way, and I don't quite understand enough, I guess.
And I think
So-
like the different way that we used to solve that was that there was the completely separate workflow file for ARM. So instead it was like sort of merge all of that in. So in some sense, like while this if stuff is annoying, in some sense, if we do this, we're able to, I think we can completely eliminate the entire other file. So it does actually reduce the CI configuration surface area quite a bit.
I think we have a better path here, right? Because if I look at this, it makes more sense to me to have, right? So we have this like, all the paths are different, right? So I would probably, and the way this is set up is that there's one thing that sets a bunch of path information, and then a bunch of things work off of the path information. So I would probably see if we could just put all of the path variants in one thing. Because like right now, if I look at this, you have like right there's like two entries for store the unsigned release deb artifact, right? One for ARM and one for not ARM, and they both just refer to paths that were set somewhere else, but the paths have the architecture name in the path, and we should probably just not have the architecture name in the path. Then we can collapse all the other things into non-branching forms.
And then just have so don't have the architecture name in the path, just have the architecture name in the file name.
In the data value, right? Not in the keys. Yeah, in the values. Because otherwise,
I guess
switching all
if we do that, we probably have to do some minor updates to like the packaging scripts or something, or the release scripts. But yeah, I don't really, besides that, see other reasons why we shouldn't do that.
Because the release scripts are running. The release scripts don't ingest these variables.
They don't ingest the variables, but they download the artifacts to build the packages.
But I'm not.
But you can rename the artifacts through GitHub Actions directly, depending on the outcome of the steps, can't you?
But I'm not suggesting we name the outputs differently. I'm suggesting that. I wonder, is sharing my screen going to help? Can I do
Oh,
that?
yeah, maybe. Okay, maybe I'm just misunderstanding because you're saying these paths don't end up going into the output anyway.
Here, let
So,
me.
so the scripts that build the actual packages don't ingest the GitHub variables for what the architecture is, right? They're independent bits that are building per architecture, and then those artifacts get uploaded.
Okay, I think this is what we're talking about here, right? And some of what I'm seeing, right, is like we have this thing, and what I sort of see like down here. Sorry, this is all so confusing, and that's not your fault, Zach. I know. Right, we've stored the unsigned release deb artifact, right? And then steps packages arch64. So this is in the key portion of the variable, not the value, right? And probably the variation here comes from like stuff in here, right? So like, can we set this as an output and then consume it? This is already an output, but the output has arch64 in the name.
So you're saying like eliminate this step on. Well, okay. So what would the change actually look like?
What's the best way to look at this? Because it's just so hard.
Is there a reason we're not just uploading the entire folder? Like, do we need them to be individual artifacts?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know that would change this problem.
It makes it one step. Because you just provide all the paths. You don't provide individual names for each.
Okay, Zach, what I think I'm suggesting is you have locate the packages x86, and then you have locate the packages r64, right?
Mhm.
And if we combine those into a single step, then we can reference the outputs without, because the problem you have right now is because this has a different ID than that.
Mhm.
Then when you subsequently reference those paths, they have to get referenced. They have to be conditionally referenced.
Right, based on the ID.
Yeah, but if we collapse that, right, because this is a bash script. We could just as well say like, what's the architecture? If it's one, output this. If it's the other, output the other thing.
Okay, and then that eliminates the second set of.
And that should allow us to
steps.
merge like all of these.
Okay, so then we still have the if on the build type, but we can get rid of the matrix OS.
Yeah, I think we
Hopefully.
could then get rid of the
Yeah.
matrix OS.
Okay.
And we can ditch a bunch of the steps here because they're just duplicate, right? They're only differing by architecture. So we should be able to drop all of that.
Okay, yeah, and there was like something to do. Okay, but that's just a bash script. There was something to do with like the fact that we were doing like a subshell ls to get the path or something. That was an issue, but again, as you're saying, like it's just a bash script, so it does seem like you should be able to do it either way. Okay, yeah, I mean, I'll dig into it further.
Okay.
I think I understand the concern and the proposed direction. I'm not sure I see exactly how it's going to work, but
Yeah,
I can try to sort of.
I would also be interested in if anyone has any thoughts on how to make this action a lot better, because 1,000+ lines is real hard to read, but that's potentially out of scope for this PR.
I mean,
So-
I'm happy to take a look at that separately down the line once this gets merged. I think that cleaning up the GitHub actions is maybe something we can do after the new build architecture is in place.
I'd love to see what you come up with.
Yeah, and there's some steps in here that are doing things like cleaning out unused packages on the runners to reclaim disk space because we need the disk space to do the build. And so that's just like not helpful really to be looking at, but it is there. In theory, we could probably even make like a separate GitHub action to do that kind of thing.
There's a pattern now where you have GitHub actions in like the .github folder, so they're like carried in the repo as opposed to external actions.
Okay.
So like that would probably make, if we wanted to like split out little pieces of this, baking a GitHub action that we keep in the Osquery repo for use probably would be cleaner than like trying to publish something that is more widely reusable or something. Sorry, Eric, I think you were about to say something.
I was going to ask, I apologize if anyone has 30 seconds to sort of run me through the new architecture. I missed why we're switching to native as opposed to container builds.
I was mainly motivated by simplifying the action.
Sure. That makes sense. Okay, and then
I do want to answer. I don't think that's where any of this complexity comes from. Some of what's happening, the reason we're looking at this, right, is Zach is merging together the job that was doing self-hosted ARM runners with the GitHub hosted stuff. So that's all going to end up condensed into one GitHub Actions file, but the complexity that exists in the GitHub Actions file predates all of the things Zach is picking up.
Yeah, I'm not seeking to understand where the complexity comes from, because that's just a function of time and growth, right? My question is more about like what's driving the architecture change now. And then my follow-up question was related to something you said, was it looks like we have self-hosted and hosted runners. Is that still true even going forward? Right, there's going to be a mix of self-hosted.
No, we'll get to kill the self-hosted because now GitHub Actions has ARM support.
Perfect.
So it was sort of like the whole. I started digging into the whole thing because we were talking about wanting to update the tool chain, and when I started looking at updating the tool chain, it was like, okay, the tool chain is used through this Docker container in the actions that actually build Osquery. So it was like, okay, do we actually need that Docker container? Because it sort of like adds another step of indirection, if you will. So then I did that. And then while I was in the file, I was like, well, wait, then also there's the self-hosted thing, but now we can host it. So it's sort of ended up being two things. They could be split into separate PRs. I don't think it really needs to be, because in the end, it's not that complex a PR. But it was sort of two things that just ended up together because I happened to be looking at the file, really.
Sure. No, I mean, the only argument for a Docker container would be like reproducible dev or build environments for people doing it locally. But given the nature of the project, I don't think there's much of a benefit for that, right? People are going to want to be developing on bare metal or bare Mac OS or whatever else anyway. So
I'm
Linux Docker containers
a little bit because we did discuss that.
No, totally. I fully believe that, which is why I'm like, I apologize. I'm sure we've gone over this. I just don't have that context.
And I think that if someone wants to put in the work to do reproducible builds, like there's no reason we couldn't go back to the Docker containers or something like that.
So
we're not even sure, I think, that it would, in what ways it would impact the reproducibility of the build, because we do attempt to put everything sort of pinned in the tool chain, which is the whole point of building the tool chain separately.
So what I'm hearing is we need to switch to NixOS for reproducible builds for Osquery. It's like, no.
So one of the things I do want to call out about Docker for reproducible builds is that does not cover all of our platforms. So
I do want to be clear that I'm not interested in reproducible.
Oh, I know.
builds.
I mean, they're cool, but if it was always very weird because we never had a story for macOS, which is probably one of our major one of our larger platforms. So, anyhow,
no, that's fair. It's mostly about, how easy is it to spin up spin up the tool chain and do Linux development, and I don't think a container is going to make a significant amount of difference there. Certainly not worth carrying the complexity through to the release builds. So
I actually might want to like dig back into container once the dust has settled a little bit, to see if that makes it easier. Because like right now, if you look at the build instructions for Linux, it's like install all these various packages and then install the toolchain. It's not that bad. Like I do it occasionally, and the instructions seem to work. It doesn't take that long, but it could be nice if there was just a Docker container that you could run and do the builds easily, and that was a documented path.
Yeah, I mean,
do that.
publishing it from the toolchain repo feels plausible.
sure, yeah, just like push a release artifact to Docker or GitHub repo, and then the runner just pulls that down with all the deps included. Sure, why not?
Yeah. So this kind of stuff is possible, but I think that this is sort of like, this is a step towards the overarching goal, which was getting the toolchain updated. And in doing so, I wanted to simplify, which, maybe takes us away from a goal that's a non-goal or like a aspirational, but not really like immediate goal. And then it's like, okay, maybe we can make a step back towards that once we like get the more immediate goal sorted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you will take a look at merging some of these steps. Feel free to holler at me if you want me to look at them. I usually try and at least notice if I'm missing any PRs I owe you review on. So sometimes I know I miss them for a few days.
I will. Yeah, I'll try to get this like updated and simplified, and then I'll just ping you to try to get it done.
Yeah, I do read the Osquery emails that GitHub sends too. So
okay, nice.
Email, whatever. Like they'll all show up, and I'll kind of ignore all of them. But I'll probably see it. Yeah. Other things that people want to discuss? I'll mention, so Micah noticed that utemp is becoming rapidly desupported on Linux, and people are replacing it with systemd. He started looking at patching Osquery to support that. So I think he filed an issue a week or two ago, but just kind of, if that's in anyone else's head, that's hanging out there.
Sorry. What was that you just said? I zoned.
I said that Linux is desupporting utemp in favor of systemd things, and Micah is starting to look at update to support that.
Okay, cool.
Was that 7869? No, I guess that's system P. Never mind. That's old.
It is.
Stefan, I just linked it. 8749.
Yeah. It should be 8749. Yeah.
Yeah, that thing. So just Micah's looking at it.
Okay, great. Awesome. And I heard from Brian McKinney that the CLA is sorted now. So he had the thing about the constraints for the user tables, the VS Code extensions thing that we talked about a while ago. So I'm going to give that a full review now that the CLA is sorted.
Do you understand that one enough? I do not. So if you understand what that one's all about, I'm happy.
Yes, I'll have to reload the context, but I believe it was roughly a strategy that I proposed in office hours several weeks ago. So I should be able to get back up to speed.
Cool.
Yeah. And then maybe we can try for a release around the end of February. hopefully that's including, some of the like CI and toolchain updates.
I would be down for cutting a release as soon as your CI and toolchain work stabilizes, even if we don't push it all the way out to stable, just getting it out and testing and like kicking the tires as soon as you get that work in is probably going to help us like catch any errors.
Okay.
Just it's always easier when it's fresh in our minds. So like if we cut enough of a release that we can get that out to your edge channel and our beta channel, then we'll start knowing if we dropped any balls.
Yeah, that seems good.
Okay. Anything else? If not, maybe we call it today. Okay. Well, thank you all for your time and contributions and all the sanity points you burn on GitHub YAML.
Thanks, y'all.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh my God, I'll turn off the recording.